Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So I wanted to make this video due in part because I know there's a lot of people who are new to the franchise and nobody knows exactly, what are the best things to use in this game. So we're exclusively going to be looking in the gunsmith here. So just jumping straight into it. There are a few things that I do want to point out because I do my own weapon testing and there are some patterns that I do notice. So if you're looking to make a class setup, the first thing I would do is make sure to check a magazine. So if you look at the magazine, see what its properties are, and if it says that it increases the damage, then I would definitely go with that because the more damage you have, obviously the less shots it takes to kill. So usually that's the case. However, the reason why I say to go ahead and check every single gun that you're interested in using while you're building your class setup is because, for example, the 𝗫𝗍𝗠, which is what you see here, it does not have a magazine that increases that damage. In fact, it increases the fire rate, and I just did a video on the 𝗫𝗍𝗠 breaking down what the attachments do to the gun's performance. So don't be fooled about these attachments here of wanting to use it. Of course, you have your own free will to use it, but I'm just here to let you know that using a magazine actually is going to make the gun kill a lot slower, and my video will explain that. Next thing we have to take a look at here is the ammo type. So if you guys don't know, incendiary actually helps you kill your enemies a lot faster. So far with the testing that I've done with the weapons that I've covered on my channel, incendiary actually really helps out a lot. So this is definitely something that you do want to use. I consider it a staple, is to use incendiary ammo type on pretty much every gun that you use. All right, now moving on to the kit. Now, more oftentimes than not, I do recommend people to use fully loaded because as you can see here, most of these stuff are, kind of just, I guess it would be player focused based on what your playstyle is. Maybe you like to run around and melee people, so you'd use reach, or if you're trying to level up your gun a lot faster in the early stages, use surplus. If you're a sniper, then you would want to use deep breath. Fully loaded is the one that I recommend the most, mainly because the TTK in this game is rather quick and you're mostly going to be going up against multiple enemies at a time. So you would want to make sure that you are fully loaded. And also, a lot of the magazines in this game, they're very small. So putting on fully loaded is going to help you make sure you have that insurance that you have ammo at all times. Defender, obviously this is if you're a camper, you don't like to run around a lot. You like to just post up in, long lines of sight and power positions. This would be for you. Heavy hitter, not really sure why I would like this one. And on-hand equipment dexterity, this one would be nice to be able to throw your equipment a lot quicker. Now, next up, let's go ahead and talk about the optics. So this is actually something that has caught my attention this year. Normally, the optics are pretty basic, but the nice thing about some of these optics are that they can actually be very beneficial to the overall performance of your game. So, for example, in the 𝗫𝗍𝗠, we have the Ravenwood mid-iron #1, and it's dead last. And it's dead last for a reason because the iron sights are actually really nice to look through in case, you're using a gun that you don't really like the iron sights to. And also at the same time, it helps with your aim down sight speeds. So it helps balance the gun out in a sense, when you're using different attachments and it makes your aim down sight a little bit slower, then this would be the optic for you. There is no negatives to using this at all. The next thing I would suggest is the G16 2.5. Now, I know 2.5 seems like too much magnification, but there's a couple things to factor in here and my reasoning for using it as well as why you should as well. Mainly because a lot of our gunfights, it's a little bit longer now. The maps are a little bit larger than what we're used to in the previous COD, which was Call of Duty Cold War. And with the G16 2.5, it has that perfect balance of being able to zoom in enough to see your opponent, but not enough where you're not going to get blindsided by an opponent who's like right up next to you. That's the beautiful part about this attachment, and it also controls your recoil. So that is something to consider if you're looking for an attachment for, whatever it may be, SMG or a assault rifle. But I have definitely started using optics on my weapons, mainly for these features and reasons. All right, now moving on to the barrel. Typically what I suggest on these barrels kind of depends on the gun, and the recoil patterns. But if the recoil pattern is very high and is really hard to control, look for a barrel that is going to help you control the recoil. So in this case, we're using the highly accurate and controllable reduced scope sway and gun bob. So the Orb Weaver 360mm BC is what we're going to be using on the 𝗫𝗍𝗠 here. In this case, that's just an example. Don't use something that's going to increase your fire rate. Don't use something that's not going to help contribute to your overall success in gunfights because, let's say I want to use more aim down sight speed. Yeah, this looks attractive. Aim walking movement speed as well, and that sprint to fire time. But the cons are bullet velocity, recoil control, and accuracy. accuracy. So in a way, you're kind of hurting yourself in gunfights. You're not going to be able to even get your shots aligned perfectly on your opponent because you're using this barrel. So always think about how these attachments are going to affect your performance in game. All right, next up we have the stock. Again, with the stock, you know, I'm looking for something that's going to control the recoil, because it seems as though a lot of these guns do have issues with controlling recoil. So again, you want to look for an attachment in the stock department that is going to help you control the recoil. But of course, this is a case-by-case basis. It's not always going to be the same result. Some guns, you know, they're better off with a little bit more speed, mobility, especially if we're talking about SMGs. Now for the muzzle, one recurring pattern that I've noticed here when building my class setups, regardless of what it is I'm either using the recoil booster or the mercury silencer. Now, the reason why the mercury silencer is huge is because it keeps you off the minimap. And obviously when you're firing your weapon and you're seen by the opponent is, you know, going to find you and kill you and take you off your streak. So this is huge. And sound suppression is huge, and that's why I'm using the mercury silencer on pretty much most of my class setups. I like to be stealthy as possible, and it's something that you should probably consider doing as well. And it also has a bonus of recoil control. So obviously it's a win-win situation. You don't really lose too much other than damage range, but you know, that's not really a big deal when, you know, most of the maps and the engagements that we get into, we tend to find ourselves between that medium to borderline long range. Now for the underbarrel, you have many different choices here, but the one that I really find myself using the most in different class setups is going to be the Carver and the hand stop. So it really depends. It's on a case-by-case basis. Obviously you could still use all these other attachments, but the main point of this video is to help you building your class setup and make sure you're doing it right. So, you know, read the pros and cons, look at how it affects the stats of the gun. So these are all very important things. All right, next up, I want to talk about perks. You know, what's the best perk combination selections to use? So me personally, and I'm sure you as well, we're all about trying to stay alive as long as possible and having the best streaks possible. So for me personally, I used to be a ninja guy. I liked, you know, running around without my footsteps being heard, but in this game, the footsteps aren't really that loud. You know, you can't really hear opponents' footsteps anyway. So I figured, okay, maybe we can cross that off our list. We don't need ninja. It's not a crutch perk in my opinion, but you do need ghost. Ghost is going to keep you off the minimap when the enemies are calling those UAVs. And if you haven't noticed by now, spy planes are always being called in constantly. So if you try to think of why you're dying, it's probably because you're not using ghost. And there's a caveat to this. You have to keep on moving. So, you know, you can just rotate, you know, in and out in a circle or something like that while you're standing in the same spot, and you're not going to get seen on the minimap. But you do have to always keep moving. That's the whole point of this perk. Never just sit in a corner thinking, okay, I'm safe. You know, they got a UAV, they're not going to find me. Next up, we have forward intel. I cannot stress this enough. This is what I recommend to everybody. Use forward intel. This is going to literally show you where the opponents are spawning after they've died. So that's going to help you out with map direction, you know, which way you should go. Because when I first started playing this game, I literally didn't know where to go because these maps were still fresh to me, still new. I didn't know the spawns, but the forward intel perk is going to help you accomplish learning the spawns and helping you find some sense of direction of where to go next. So forward intel is going to tell you where the action is going to be at and where you're most likely going to find your teammates flocking to as well, because they're probably using the same thing. So forward intel is going to give you a crazy advantage. Now, secondly, I would definitely put on high alert if you don't want to put on forward intel. I like high alert because with how big these maps are, you're running down whatever lane it may be, and sometimes you're going to get shot in directions that you didn't even know existed, or spots that you didn't know existed. And with high alert, it's going to highlight some yellow portion of your screen, whether it's up, down, left, or right, and it's going to let you know that an opponent is looking right at you. So obviously that's going to give you a little bit of a standing chance or a heads up to get ready for that gunfight, which is pretty nice. So it's nice if you're a running gunner. High alert is something I do recommend. Next up, we got piercing vision. So I would say this is more for like the camper, you know, someone who plays Call of Duty a little bit slower, who doesn't like to rush around. Because with this one, you pair it up with an LMG, for example, and you put like piercing rounds on it, or FMJ. When you get one bullet on an opponent, you're going to be able to literally see them through the wall. It's literally a legal wall hack in Vanguard. And I've heard it so many times in my lobbies, accusing someone of hacking. And I literally thought the first thing as well when I was first killed by somebody who was just tracking me through a wall. But piercing vision is literally a wall hack, and it only lasts for a few seconds, but it's still pretty helpful for those, like I said, who don't like to run around the map and rush. Tracker can be cool as well, but you know, I'm not really a fan of it this time around because I feel like with the way that the maps are designed, it's not really worth using because they kind of because you're going to get into a lot of frequent engagements anyway. So being able to track somebody or flanking is, it's a little bit different this year, to say the least. But, don't let me steer you away from using tracker. You can still use it at your own discretion. Now for perk 3, perk 3 is kind of like a must-have for me personally. Scavenger. We want to replenish our ammo as much as we possibly can, as often as we can. We want to stay strapped basically. Or you can go with double time. If you're a running gunner, you want to run around the map a little bit longer, this might be helpful for you. But I do find scavenger to be very beneficial in my opinion. But I would say maybe perk 3 category is just kind of dependent on your play style, what kind of player you are, what kind of game mode you're playing. So we can leave this up to discussion which one you think is the best perk out of here. But as far as I'm concerned, in my personal success, I would say Ghost, Forward Intel, and Scavenger are the best perk combinations. All right, moving on to the lethals. So we have here a bunch of different selections. Now, I'm going to highlight a few here of my personal favorites. So I like the Gammon Bomb because it literally just explodes on impact. If you see somebody just chilling on a window or like in a room and he's in a corner, you can throw it. It explodes on impact. Great stuff. Next up, the Thermite. I really like this one. Now, I know a lot of people don't like it because it's really annoying, but if you use it in a strategic tactical way, you can actually use the Thermite to block off a certain lane that you anticipate opponents to come into, and you can use that to your advantage because that is going to force the opponent to go to the opposite direction where you will be meeting them on the other side, and you're going to be able to kill them because they're not going to be anticipating you to be on that side. So you can use the Thermite as some sort of advantage to your tactical game, if you want to say, because it just makes sense. If somebody throws a Thermite in my direction, then that means I'm just going to go the other way because I don't want to die. So use the Thermite in a more strategic sense. That's my tip right there. Demolition Charge, don't really have too much experience with it, but if it doesn't detonate on whenever I want to on command, then I'm not going to use it. So I don't find that to be useful at all because with the TTK being so quick, you want to be able to detonate this fast, especially when you got an opponent in front of you. So that's why I don't recommend the Demolition Charge. But what I do recommend here is the Molotov as well. So the Molotov and the Thermite do serve the same purpose of how you should be using it. Obviously, this is going to help block off an entire area. It's going to create some fear in your opponents and make them want to go a different way. Same thing. All right, next up for tactical. This one is a no-brainer for me personally because I find a lot of value in stim shot. Now, you could argue that, okay, well, why can't you just hide and duck under cover or something like that and just wait till your health regens? Well, in some cases you can. Sometimes you need that emergency stim to be able to regen your health, and it really helps out in those situations. It just gives you a lot more insurance that you need that you're going to survive and stand a chance in that gunfight rather than, hoping that the opponent doesn't rush you before you can finally regen your health. There's other different tacticals here that you can use. Traditional stun grenade, we got your gas grenade, S-mine, if you just want to be putting them around in random spots. But I like using things that are going to help me out immediately as far as tactical goes in the tightest of situations. So that's just my personal preference and what I could recommend to you. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the secondary really quick. Personally, I don't really use a secondary much, but if you were to use a secondary, make sure it's a secondary that you trust because using pistols is not easy just in general. So make sure it's a pistol that you are very comfortable using because you never know when you're going to need it. You're supposed to use it in situations where you don't have time to reload your main weapon. Launchers are cool too. You can use this to take down like spy planes. Melee, you can use this as well if you want to. The secondary weapon select is definitely personal preference. Use whatever you like, but make sure you have a purpose for whatever you're going to be using in the secondary and how it's going to benefit you in whatever situation you may feel like you'll need it in. All right, next up, let's talk about kill streaks. So typically I advise that you keep your kill streaks low if you're new to the game, but some of these kill streaks I really do enjoy using and I find them to be very effective. So a spy plane, obviously that's a no-brainer right there. It's going to show you where the opponents are, gives you some sense of direction of where to go. Glide bomb I don't really like, man. I feel like it's roulette right there. You're not sure if you're going to get a kill or not. Same thing with mortar barrage. I really don't like how this works out as well. War machine, I don't like it either. I don't trust it. I feel like you could die really quickly while using it. Guard dog is okay too, but I don't trust it enough. Strafing run, I don't really like that much, but I'm not gonna put that at a low tier level here. Bombing run is okay as well, but the way you're supposed to deploy it is kind of weird. So the opponent's those could have already moved out of the way by that time. Death Machine, I don't really like this either. I'm not really a fan of the Death Machine. Emergency airdrop might be nice, you know, if you're not really looking to get higher kill streaks, maybe it'll reward you one, so there's that. But the Flame Knot is amazing. I love using the Flame Knot. No better sense of satisfaction when you're just getting multi kills and they cannot stop you at all, especially when you just jump into their spawn. It's absolute chaos. Next up, we have attack dogs. I really like attack dogs. You know, they just run around, literally just attack and kill people for you, and it's relatively easy to get, you know, the Flame Knot and the attack dogs, and we're gonna get into that a little bit. Firebombing Run is one that I've really enjoyed, man. Like, it literally burns people alive continuously for a certain amount of time. So the trick is to just put it in their spawn, because, you know, people are dying constantly. When you put it in their spawn, they have to literally spawn in flames, so that's really nice. Local Informants is basically advanced UAV. I don't think this is worth it in this game, because you can get, like, you know, 3 UAVs in a row on your team and it'll just automatically create an advanced UAV. So I don't think this is worth using. I'd rather use like kill streaks that are going to get me kills. Last but not least, let's talk about the field upgrade. So Dead Drop, I find this to be one of the most beneficial field upgrades that you can use, because it literally helps you get your kill streaks a lot easier. So, you know, if you're on a kill streak, let's say you're 1 off of your Flame Knot and you're just not sure that you're going to win the next gunfight, you activate this when you do have it, and it recharges really quickly, by the way. And then even if you die, you still respawn with the same amount of kills left needed to get the Flame Knot. So that's amazing. So I don't see why you wouldn't use Dead Drop. It just makes it so easy to get kill streaks, unless you have an ego and, you know, you don't want to use it for whatever reason and you'd rather use something else, then by all means go ahead and use it. So all these other ones, they're okay, but you know, I don't really find them to be as beneficial as the Dead Drop. So obviously this is my personal opinion and based on my own playstyle and experience. So yeah, that's about it for today's video, guys. I just wanted to outline some of the most important things about the gunsmith that you guys should be aware of and focus your attention on, especially with Vanguard being a new game. I'm sure you guys feel like you're lost. You don't know where to start, what's good, what's bad, what you should avoid, etc., etc. So hopefully this video did help you guys in some way, shape, or form. You found it helpful, beneficial, whatever. Leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. And make sure to subscribe if you're brand new around here for more helpful tips and tricks. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Yo, if you guys are always on your computer all day, or you like to game for long sessions, definitely check out GamerAdvantage.com for these blue light blocking glasses. Quite literally the best blue light glasses that you can ever find on the market. Make sure to check out GamerAdvantage.com and just learn more about it, man. There's so many benefits to keeping your eyes nice and healthy. You won't feel that strain at the end of the day, and you'll go to sleep like a baby at the end of the day, and that's the best part. You won't feel tired at all. Definitely check out GamerAdvantage.com. Use code TURBO at checkout.